Welcome into a Week 4 breakdown of the Green Bay Packers versus the Dallas Cowboys. The high-scoring 40-40 tie, and no one likes ties, but it is better than a loss. But let's not waste your time. Let's dive right into the All-22 film, see what was good, bad, or ugly for the Green Bay Packers. One of the big reasons the Packers struggled in the run game early on is just bad assignments in general. Here we're going to focus on Elgton Jenkins. I'll let it play out, and then we'll watch it from the end zone angle afterwards just to see what happens. You can see tackle for loss, not much going. Got the typical orbit motion, the spinner from Jordan Love. But this is a very tough assignment for Elgton Jenkins. He's got to reach all the way here to cut off the 3-tech. And this 3-tech is quite fast, so he's just going to get upfield and disrupt this. You essentially have a GY counter. All right, you got your Y, you've got your G. He's going to pull and kick out. He's going to wrap and take the next defender. But in order for that to happen, you've got to get this block down. You can see Kennard, he tries to get enough power just to slow him down so then Jenkins can pull him up. But he doesn't take a step too far in order to disrupt him. And instead, he gets in the backfield and makes a play. Here we are on 3rd and 9 early in the game, first quarter. You have two receivers in the same area. And I'm not sure who this is on in terms of running the wrong route, but I would imagine that there was some sort of alert on where Wicks is just going to go vertical, and it seems like this is supposed to be a little bit more flat, more of like a sail route for Golden, but I think he sees that he's got a lot of open space, and he turns that upfield. So he's heading this direction, you got Wicks heading this direction. They end up at the same spot. Golden is so focused on the ball that he's going to be the one that comes down with it. Wicks does a good job of getting out of the way. And we'll watch it from the end zone angle as well. Good protection up front from the offensive line. You can see Sean Ryan does a good job of keeping a hand on one of the defenders while keeping his eyes on the blitzing backer. Picks him up with ease. Love with that rotation. A nice deep shot early in the game for Matthew Golden. And here we've got the Romeo Doubs game. First touchdown. Spoiler alert. 2nd and 2. He's just going to take that quick fade. All right, and this is just a simple numbers game. We talked about it earlier this year against Washington. All right, just a simple number game. Looking here on the inside, there are way too many bodies. Someone is going to be unblocked if you just run straight up the middle. So let's take our chance. We got one-on-one on the outside. We know that our receiver is going to go up and make a play. Doubs with a quick release and comes down with the ball for his first of 3. Now, defensively, Packers had a very, very rough game. This play, however, we're going to focus on Quay. I think he's made some improvements in the run game. Here, he just has a good read, gets downhill, and is able to make a tackle for no gain, essentially. And we're going to highlight some of Walker's issues a little bit later in this film. But here, he's helped out because Williams, you can see he's bracing for that contact. He's going to create a lane, essentially, for Walker. Boom. So Walker is going to get that nice seam, head downhill with a nice wrap up for no gain. Here we've got a play that Jordan Love would probably want back. Nothing too bad that happens here. Just simple play action, drop back, and he short arms this one a little bit towards Doubs. Protection up front is okay. You can see that Sean Ryan is trying to help on this blitzer on the inside. You got 2 guys with their eyes on him. And Jenkins is going to be more solid in picking that up. But because Ryan is worried about that blitzer, his guy's going to get through and get some pressure. I don't know if that's necessarily going to affect the throw here, right? Wouldn't necessarily consider that a pressure, but he is short on Doubs there on what would have been a nice first down to move the Packers to the opposite side of the 50. Here we're going to highlight Parsons. He's going to get some quick pressure, and this is something that we're used to with a lot of the offenses that we've seen. Quarterbacks are getting the ball out quick, just check it down, because the Packers, they play this really, really soft shell, right? Here we've got essentially just a cover three, right? One high safety, two deep zones. And you've got these backers that get a lot of depth. They let people catch in front of them, so then they can break down and get a tackle. All right. So that's something that we saw a lot in this game, something we've seen a lot this season. And that's going to get a little bit exploited later in the game when we're looking at Quay Walker in coverage. And of course, I did highlight Micah Parsons, and we'll watch his pass rush here. So he does get a very quick burst. He's been checked, but he's still able to force that ball to come out quick. All right, he's got the offensive tackle lunging to try to just keep contact with him, and he's going to get a QB hit there. But even though he had that one sack late in the game, he did have consistent pressure throughout the game. Someone who's had a lesser role is Mr. Enagbare. Obviously, with the acquisition of Micah Parsons, playing time for the edges is going to decrease naturally. But here we have a really nice job by Enagbare throwing the tight ends onto the ground, shedding them, making first contact to stop the play for a 5-yard gain. Obviously, that's a decent push here by the offensive line in order to get guys upfield. Still gained 5 yards out of this, but Enagbare does a good job on this side of the field, throwing the tight end out of the way and then getting downhill, making contact, preventing a much longer run. This play was mentioned on the broadcast, but this could have been a potential big play for the Cowboys. We're going to keep our eyes on this matchup at the top. It is man coverage, and we'll see that once we play it. You can see the motion goes across the field. Bullard trying to keep up with number one. Here you've got that spinner motion, just play action. And you've got man across the board with one high safety. Williams is the deep man here. And we're going to get good coverage by Keyshawn Nixon. Realistically, what this receiver should have done is flatten this out, because then the corner isn't going to be able to undercut it and break it up. And we're going to see he starts to drift upfield. All right, so here he is going upfield, and the ball gets swatted because where he could have been, right, that corner is just going to slide right in, get a hand up, and knock it down. So Nixon does a good job there, undercutting the route, but that could have potentially been a big play if Dak puts this more out in front and flattens him out. So it's partially on the receiver, partially on Dak, not keeping that out in front. But a good breakup by Nixon. Next play, we're going to have a big play to Wilson. And this is, I think, exactly the same play that they ran last year against Tennessee that went for a touchdown. So you're going to get an orbit motion. You're going to fake the spinner handoff. You also have a gap scheme kind of pull. So you're going to get the read of the linebackers. They're going to start flowing one direction, right? They're assuming that they've got that pull. Backer reads it. But of course, you've got an offensive lineman out in front. So you got two offensive linemen out in front. Creates a nice seam for a big explosive play. But this is almost identical to a play that they ran last year against the Titans. And it was to Emmanuel Wilson as well, but they used it more in the high red zone, and it went for a touchdown. But a really nice game by Wilson in general. And here we've got a free play, and I think that Love probably should have taken a different option here. You're essentially going to get some form of Tampa 2. You've got this guy coming in. He's going to essentially play a cloud flat. You got a high man here, and then you're going to have the middle read defender that's going to take the middle third, essentially. But we'll watch it play out. So you can see you've got that too high. You've got a flat defender here. You've got the safety that reached over. You've got the middle read defender with a safety over the top. So naturally, you're going to try to isolate where there's fewer guys. But I think if he takes a shot here, since it is a free play towards the middle of the field and lets Kraft make a play, then that's potential for a touchdown. So here we go. We've got that seam. I think if he keeps his eyes outside here, he can toy with his safety, get him to slide outside. But instead, he's just going to take that one-on-one, right? There is separation there, and this is just going to be a nice play. Luckily, it doesn't come back to bite the Packers because it was 12 men on the field. So what could have been an interception is negated by that penalty. But again, if we look up here, you essentially had a one-on-one. If that ball is placed well enough, you got Kraft, who's got to play against a linebacker who's not going to get his eyes around, and that could be problematic for them as well. So could have been a potential touchdown. Instead, it is just a free 5 yards. Next play is going to be a screen to Brooks, and this is, I think it's the right call. It's 1st and 20. You're just trying to get some yards back, and if this gets blocked up properly, this is a walk-in touchdown. I mean, big issue is we got a missed assignment up here. We got another missed assignment as well. So we're going to play this out. I get the idea is we want to pass up the nickel and we want to make a play on the safety. So we just block him out. And then we got 3 offensive linemen who are going to come out and make blocks. Problem is they are way too slow on getting out. So you would have the center who's going to take a flowing backer, and generally it's going to be your guard, your right guard, that's going to take that nickel, and then you would have a nice lane all the way down to the end zone. But unfortunately, offensive line is not able to get out there. You can see Jenkins switches, changes his mind on who he's going to block. He's going to try to take the most dangerous man. Things get clogged up. And instead of it being an explosive potential touchdown, you got guys bumping into each other for no gain. So what do they do in response? Here you've got a nice creative play by Jordan Love. Pressure. Going to flush him out of the pocket. Throws it backwards. So counts as a rush for Jacobs. Gets down within the 1 yard line. So even though you have that messed up screen, it doesn't hurt you in the end because you're going to get down into the red zone much further on the goal line. Then we go back to Romeo Doubs here at the bottom, another one-on-one. First, you give him that split release and you hit the fade. Now this time you'll give him that split release and a quick move on the inside, and that's just going to be an easy win. Again, all the guys in the box. All right, you essentially got 10 in the box. Let's isolate that one-on-one. It is 1st and 1. So he's just going to take it, snap, Doubs, clean catch for his 2nd touchdown of the game. And then, of course, special teams continues to be an issue. And here we've got a block, and this is all on Musgrave. And we'll obviously speed this up. We don't need to see the entire return for both angles, but I think the big issue is going to be if you're this outside guy, usually you want to pinch whatever is going to be coming on the inside, right? You don't want anything to squeeze by because that is a much shorter angle than having someone go to the outside, right? So if someone can just beam straight into that gap rather than having to arc around, that's going to create issues. So this is exactly what happens with Musgrave. He takes the outside man, number 2, just flies right in, essentially unblocked. And this is the difference in the game. All right, this blocked extra point, it's a 3-point swing. Instead of the Packers being up 14-0, it's 13-2. All right, so that 3-point swing is going to bite them later when they're kicking a field goal to tie instead of to win the game. On this play, we're going to focus on Nate Hobbs up at the top, one-on-one with Pickens. You know, Dak was really taking his shots all game with Pickens. This one should have been a pick. All right, and this would have been a momentum killer. You do have a hold on this play anyways that gets declined because you'd rather take the down when you're backed up like this. So you can see the hold obviously in the middle, number 73 with the wrestling takedown. But here you'd like to see some better ball skills from Nate Hobbs, right? Try to turn your back, shield out the receiver, get your hands and high point that ball, but instead it gets messy. You let Pickens get get some hands on it, so that ball just drops into the dirt. Now here we get the Packers bailed out due to an illegal formation. They were saying that he's too far back. Normally, this outside offensive tackle, his helmet has to be in line with the belt of the center. Obviously, we don't have a perfect angle, but normally you would like to see him one step up. So then your helmet is going through that belt. But unfortunately, he was too far back, and you just get Nixon, who gets tripped up on this route. So we'll focus on Nixon down here. We'll let this play out. You can see nice route. Forces Nixon to slip. He's just wide open. So what could have been a big play for Dallas is negated due to their inability to line up correctly. All right, here we're going to focus on Love, and he's going to focus on Wicks, and I don't think that this is the right read. It could have been a potential first down here, but he's locked in on one receiver, and I think he's starting to feel the pressure off his right side, and he's just going to launch this. All right, and it is not a good ball either, but I think if he's a little bit more patient, or if Dobbs is able to break off his route a little bit earlier, because Dobbs gets rerouted here, and he still takes a few more steps before breaking in the middle of the field. But if there was any anticipation here, I think Love can probably get that ball in as soon as Dobbs is making his break. He would still get hit. I mean, he got hit on this one anyways. But I think he's just trying to get that to Wicks on a corner. And I think Wicks gets a little bit too fancy here at the break. So here, he's trying to rocker step, trying to create some more separation. And that DB just sinks his hips, and he's patient. So there's no way that ball is going to get caught. Here I want to focus on two players. And we're going to first focus on Rashawn Gary. Then at the end of the play, we'll focus on Nixon. Nixon has had a pretty good season in general, but he still makes some mental errors. So here we've got a nice job of Gary setting the edge. And then as soon as the running back gets there, he's making contact, allowing his teammates to make a play. And you got Nixon doing stupid things here at the bottom. Yes, you're being pushed by an offensive lineman. You have no reason to grab his face mask, right? So if he was disciplined, this is an easy stop for the Packers. All right, it is 2nd and 1, but there is a flag that gets thrown. So instead of it being a hold on the offense that pushes them back, which would make it 2nd and 11, it's 2nd and 1 again, so they get a chance to get an easy first down. Here is another target against Hobbs. This is just man coverage, cover one. Williams is trying to recognize it. He gets over way too late. He's able to somewhat make a play, but this is just an incredible catch by Pickens. So Dak is willing to trust Pickens. You can see Hobbs having issues locating the ball again. All right, Williams tries to come in, make enough contact where he's going to drop that ball. But unfortunately, Pickens comes down with it and puts Dallas in really good field position. And then the next play, pretty simple. It's just going to be a quarterback draw. Spread things out a little bit. Haven't seen it on film. And Dak's just going to take it into the end zone quite easily with Javonte Williams as his lead blocker. You can see Dak, they talked about this on the broadcast. Look at, there's a nice little lane there. Instead, he's just doing that, so then he's going to cheat on the inside, and then he'll cut back right behind his blocker, and it'll be an easy touchdown. I'm going to rant a little bit. Here you go. It is quarter number 2. 21 seconds left. You've already thrown an incomplete pass. You had a penalty. You've moved back 5 yards. So now this is, 1st and 15. I don't understand why you're trying to drive down the field and get points here before half. I understand that, Dallas, they get the ball at half. But I think if you take a knee, that they're not going to use their timeouts. They're just going to go into the half. Think, okay, yeah, we've we're within a score. I don't think we need to force the issue. And even if they take all 3 timeouts, they have to drive the entire field after a punt with 10 seconds left in the half. So how likely is it that they're going to get points out of this? So instead, next play, motion out into empty. Dak is going to change this. He sees he's got a matchup that he likes. Packers love their cover 3 in this situation. That's exactly what you get. And a seam is going to make sure that gets beat. All right, so you're going to get this cover 3 shell, deep third, deep third, deep third. You got a couple hook zones underneath. You got your flat, and you got your flat. All right, so usually if he's coming down, right, you're going to be able to get that seam over the top of him. And Pickens is just going to have a nice job of kind of selling this route to the outside. Not necessarily that much as I drew it, but you're going to see him angle his body and give a nice little rocker step just to create a little bit more space, and that's an easy touchdown. And we'll watch it from the end zone angle as well. Dak changing the play. Hey, let's take advantage of this matchup, which he did all night. And you can see perfect ball over McKinney. And by Pickens stemming outside, showing that rocker step, Hobbs has to respect it. And instead, he's just going to walk into the end zone. Here we've got Tucker Kraft, and he does a very nice job with his check release. We're going to get play action. And this is pretty nifty. Obviously, he's engaged in a block here, so you're not necessarily going to expect that he's going out. Then he's going to get a quick spin as this defender's coming downhill. And that's just going to get him enough separation. All right, Love just has to get his hips around. Throws that, and gets very, very close to a touchdown. Of course, we saw in the slow motion angle that is down right before the end zone. But of course, that's going to set up a Packers touchdown anyways. All right, and here is the Packers touchdown that gets set up. Easy walk-in touchdown. Nothing too impressive there. Just nice blocking up front. You can see a nice double team here by Jenkins. He's going to keep himself square, and he's going to make sure that he takes his backer who's shooting the gap, picks him up, doing just enough to make sure that Jacobs can walk in. And Hobbs continues to get picked on. Here we have another touchdown by the Cowboys, giving them another lead. You can see just a big-bodied tight end. Doesn't do anything too impressive. He stems outside. All right, so he's attacking that outside leverage. Usually when that happens, they're going to try to break back in across the face. That's exactly what happens here. That ball is perfectly placed. All right, so all he has to do is box him out, catches it in his chest, falls to the ground. Easy touchdown for the Cowboys. Something I would love to see a little bit more, no pun intended, is Love using his legs. And here you get a very nice gain. This is 3rd and 2. He gets pressure in his face. And luckily, he doesn't just, take that sack, fall to the ground, because that could change the game. Instead, we got a hold downfield, which is going to be 5 yards added, but a very nice scramble. A good job by the receivers to turn into blockers. All right, so Tunyon is just boxing out. And then further downfield, we got more blocks being thrown by the receivers. So good recognition by them. Love obviously sliding down after a 20-yard gain. And here we've got a really nice run by Josh Jacobs for a touchdown. And just really solid blocking up front. Able to bounce this out. Kenny Clark tries to get an arm on him. But you get a nice lane here by Kennard. Nice blocks on the linebackers. So you got the 2nd level blocked. 3rd level getting blocked by Malik Heath. And Jacobs walks in for a touchdown. So really well done by the Packers there. This is going to be something that I'll break down after we watch it. But it's just a simple, flip this play. And it's going to lead to a nice explosive gain. And we'll see why he flips it. Obviously, you see there on the camera. Let's hey man, let's go this way instead. And we're gonna see how that works out. And you can just see a nice explosive run. Gets it down within the 5. But the reason why he does this is just he doesn't like the numbers on the left side. And we'll see it a little bit better from this angle. But we're going to notice something that happens here at the start after they shift. So they're going to motion. He's going to settle. And then the Packers are going to shift inside. All right, so he's going to shift inside. He's going to shift to the other side. All right, so that's going to create an advantage going the other way. And we'll see it a lot better as this plays out. You can see he changes that. But we can see the numbers, right? We've got a lot more defenders over on this side than we do on this side. So this is just a simple flip. And we also have a numbers advantage in terms of the blocks. Here, we're going to have a simple reach step. We're going to pick him up. Simple reach step here. We're going to pick him up. Simple reach. We're going to pick him up. Right? So then you're going to get a one-on-one essentially here with the linebacker. And you're going to get a nice block down here. Right? So you've got much better matchups going that direction, and you can see they take advantage of it. That's just good job by Dak, and I think he was diagnosing our defense the entire night. So here, good blocks, able to get a great push, and puts them in great position for a score. Eventually, the Cowboys scored there, but here we'll focus on Dobbs again. This is just another good route. It's going to give him an easy touchdown. That's a really good throw as well by Jordan Love. We'll see it more from the end zone angle, but you can see, as I was talking about earlier, stem outside. You got to threaten outside before you make that break to the inside. So Dobbs is going to stem outside. Quick break. Yeah, that's a nice throw over the backer. We'll see it from this angle. Right over the hand of 59, onto the goal line, and Dobbs with his third touchdown of the game. Quay Walker is still having issues in zone coverage, and hopefully it can get rectified at some point, but this is his biggest weakness. Here, he's just too busy watching the quarterback, and that's his guy. Right? Generally, you're going to try to match. Right? He can't necessarily push him. Right? So maybe he's going to say, hey, Coop, I want you to slide back and take this crosser. But he can't necessarily do that because Coop has to be honest with his running back. Right? So you can see Quay, where he could be sliding, right? Going this direction. Shadowing that receiver a little bit. He's a little bit late. And instead, it's tackled way downfield on a third down. Then you've got the very next play. This is just going to be a slip by Valentine. That's going to allow Pickens to walk in. All right, so you just have a quick out. He's going to stop his momentum. There's no reason for him to keep going out. Dak does a good job throwing it towards that back shoulder, even though he had pressure in his face. And Pickens does a good job of tight roping that sideline. So we can see Parsons gets through. He's going to get another quarterback hit on the stat sheet. But of course, over pursuit by Valentine, he's going to slip. And that's an easy touchdown for the Cowboys on that 3-play drive to go up in the fourth quarter. Later in the game, I think the Cowboys got away with a lot of calls. I think this one could potentially be another penalty that wasn't called against the Cowboys. We'll see the pass interference a little bit later on Devontae Wicks, but this could have been a hold against Van Ness, and I don't like the effort at all here from Keyshawn Nixon. All right, looking up at the top of the screen, Dak only has this one option, really. I mean, he could go in the middle of the field, and there's nobody there, and that would be a catch and run for potentially a touchdown. But Dak is going to take this one-on-one shot. He's rolling to his right, so he's not necessarily seeing the receiver in the middle of the field. And this is just not great effort, right? Ball is up in the air. Nixon can see the ball is up in the air right now. And instead, he just drifts backwards. instead of putting his foot in the dirt and trying to make a play. And Tolbert makes a really nice grab, but I am not a fan of Keyshawn Nixon's effort on this play. And despite the lack of effort, at least we've got number one making some effort here. It's on a second down, and then he's able to get this chase down sack on what could have potentially been a touchdown. I know Chris Collinsworth kept mentioning, oh, he could have just walked in. The DB turned around. I think Cooper probably makes a stop here, right? I don't think Dak gets into the end zone, but it is a nice effort by Parsons. And the very next play, they throw it incomplete. And instead of going for the touchdown, they just take the field goal to go up 40-37. All right, so here we've got a deep shot, trying to alert. They can see they've got cover one. Let's take that shot. And to me, I think that's textbook interference. Bland never gets his head around. Of course, Wicks is using his hands trying to fight back, but it's because he's being obstructed by Bland, right? You can see the Packers sideline wanting a flag. Nothing comes. All right, so that's another call that went in favor of the Cowboys. Not that this is the reason, the Packers end up with a tie here. Certainly doesn't help. But again, from this angle, eyes locked in. You got contact. Wicks trying to fight free back for the ball. Unfortunately, he doesn't come down with it, even though it hits him in the hands. But, Packers move on. So later, you get a 4th and 6. And this is going to be a nice play by Golden. All right, Golden lined up here. He's just going to find the soft spot in the zone. Good timing there from Love. All right, and a really nice job by Golden, looking it in, securing it, getting to the ground, making sure that it doesn't get punched out. So move the chains in overtime. Obviously, if you take the ball second and you're down, you have to go for it on 4th down. Otherwise, you're just conceding. That's a nice job there by Golden. Then you've got the Packers going hurry up, and I know a lot of people did not like this play. Hey, let's throw another screen. That's what I saw, and I don't have any issues with this. All right, you got essentially 2 guys playing out here. So you got this 3-on-1 here. If you get this little bubble, you take the nickel, you take the corner. He's got a foot race with number 2 to the end zone. Unfortunately, this is just good recognition by Diggs. He's taking his read step. He can see, oh, it's not a handoff, so it's going to be this little flat, right? RPO to the flat. He shoots down. This probably could have been taken if Wicks just slides in. Then Dobbs would take the next threat. I don't know what their blocking rules are on this, but I think if Wicks keeps his head up and he recognizes that he fires down, he could probably pick him up, but instead gets tackled, and you can see that was snapped at 32 seconds. So you've got to use a timeout on that. And then the next play, obviously, we had that short pass to Wilson. It gets tackled inbounds. You have no more timeouts. Or kind of lollygagging into the line. So here you get the ball snapped with 6 seconds left. And that ball just goes straight into the back. It's actually not a bad ball. I think he's probably got another option, right, at the front of the goal line. But in the end, hits him in the back. It drops straight to the ground. No pass interference because Golden didn't make much of an effort for this ball. But that 1 second left on the clock is what's going to save the Packers from a loss. Right, so that ball hitting him in the back of the head, dropping straight to the ground. Whistle blows. So you could have potentially had Wicks here. That safety was in a position where if that ball is thrown down here, he's just going to readjust and cut that off. So really good defense by the Cowboys. And the Packers are really lucky to walk away here with a field goal to tie the game. All right, that's going to do it for this video. Obviously, the Packers, too many penalties again, too many soft coverages. You had Hobbs. He was getting abused all game in one-on-one matchups. So was Valentine. Not a pretty game from the defense. Special teams as well, still struggling. This bye is coming at the right time for the Packers. Usually, I don't like early buys, but with the amount of injuries they have, the problems they've had in the last 2 weeks, they really need this bye to get things right. And of course, they've got a Joe Burrow-less Cincinnati Bengals after the bye week. So hopefully they can get things right and come back stronger against the Bengals. So then we don't have any of these long overtime games that just end in a tie. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.